Well, hola, ¿cómo estás? Mi nombre es Timoteo. Good morning. I'm the Reverend Tim Cutsmart, and I serve gratefully as minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Fresno, California. Yay! Welcome to our Sunday service that we're titling Out of the Flames, the true story of a deadly heresy and one of the rarest books in the world. It's also New Member Sunday, and we'll be welcoming some new members into our church community. We're going to begin in about a minute, so there's time if you want to grab a chalice or a candle, so you'll be able to light the chalice with Ida when she does that, all the way from Elk Grove, California. And I think that's all I'm going to say, except I'll see you in a minute. Bye-bye.
Hola, buenos dias. Mi nombre es Lisa. I'm Lisa Lindsay, and I serve gratefully as president of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno in sunny California. Our church mission statement proudly professes who we are striving to become as a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Our mission calls us to grow more fully and deeply into becoming the beloved community we dream of being. As you are comfortable, please join me in saying, La misión de la Iglesia Unitaria Universalista de Fresno es amar inclusivamente, crecer espiritualmente, servir con gratitud y trabajar por la justicia. The mission of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno is to love inclusively, grow spiritually, serve gratefully, and work for justice. Part of our mission to love inclusively means we extend a welcome to you no matter your race, age, gender, cultural background, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression. We welcome you no matter your spiritual beliefs or religious upbringing. We welcome you no matter your disabilities, documentation status, amount of education, or level of income. We welcome you into our virtual sanctuary of memory, hope, and vision. Todos son bienvenidos aquí. Today is New Member Sunday, and soon we'll welcome some new friends into membership. I formally joined the church over a decade ago, in 2011. Our minister at the time was Reverend Brian Jessup. As Reverend Tim often reminds us from time to time, ministers come and go. Our buildings change. Our ability to enter the building changes. But it is the people who are the church. When I first started attending this church, I was going through a divorce that had caused me to experience depression like I had never experienced before. I had horrible insomnia, and I found that 1 hour when I came into this church, I was able to turn my brain off in a way that I truly needed at the time. And now here we are, all these years later, and I'm going through a hard time again. I think I've shared that with many of you. I'm so grateful that we have this church at this time to be there for all of us as we grow together. And now I gently pass you over to Reverend Tim as we begin today's service.
Muchas gracias, Lisa. Thank you for your grounded and wise leadership of the congregation as you serve as president of our board of trustees. From Lisa to Ida, in between the Tingsha silence and the start of today's service.
Hola. Greetings. I'm Ida Jones, and I serve gratefully as past president of your board of trustees. Welcome to my home. I appreciate the opportunity to walk with you this morning as we begin our new member Sunday service. On Sunday mornings, in small towns and large cities, in fellowship rooms and elaborate sanctuaries, Unitarian Universalists throughout the world are lighting the chalice. Our chalice reminds us that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe. It is our reminder that all is connected. This flame is our promise that in our time on this earth, we live intently and deeply, with love for one another, with honesty and integrity, to be guided by rational thought and critical thinking, and with a sense of shared responsibility. For as the late astronomer Carl Sagan reminded us, this pale blue dot is the only home we've ever known. What I just said is adapted from the words of Sean Trapp. Together, the chalice and the flame remind me that we join as a community of faith for thoughtful, careful, and intentional action, for spiritual connection, for renewal, for support, for caring, and for love. I hope you will join me in lighting a chalice or candle of your own this morning. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let's now sing our song of praise, The Fire of Commitment, which I'd like to point out is the theme of this year's annual pledge drive.
Spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living brings a song bold, brave, and free, calling pilgrims still to witness through the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, voice, built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Hi, I'm Laura, the member of this year's annual Pledge Drive team. Welcome to the third week of Fire of Commitment, this year's annual Pledge Drive. You might not have ever participated in a pledge drive for a church. It is similar to how many of us support PBS and NPR. But in this case, we are each pledging our financial support for the deepening and nourishing of our spiritual life. Whether you are a member, friend, or brand new financial supporter, we ask you to make a pledge of how much you will be able to share with the church over the course of a year. People pledge from $52 a year to multiple tens of thousands a year. This pledge is your financial commitment to the congregation over the course of a fiscal year, from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. The total of all our pledges together become the basis on which we finalize our budget. We know what we can spend because you've told us through your pledge. If you need a pledge card or just want more information, please email pledge@uufresno.org. I am excited to announce that our current pledge drive total is, drumroll please, $344,427. This is 56% of our goal. This leaves $258,520 to be raised in the next 2 weeks. The sooner you make your pledge, the sooner we can wrap up our drive. Thank you in advance for helping us stoke the fire of commitment.
I've been involved with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno through music and media before and during the era of pandemic protocols. And now's a time I think it's more important than ever to stay connected. This is one of the things that I value most about our church. I think it's vital that the Fresno community and the surrounding areas continue to have a welcoming place for folks like us, who bring a variety of religious metaphors in our responsible search for truth and meaning. That doesn't sound like any other church to me, but it sounds to me more like that's what church could be. And it's what the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno is.
That first morning I visited the UU Church, I remember feeling a sense of joy and relief at seeing the plaque by the bathrooms, which begins, "Gender diversity is welcome here. All are welcome to use the restroom that best fits their identity." And this community helped prepare and ground me to respond with love and support when my 15-year-old recently surprised me with the revelation that they are non-binary and want to be called by a whole new name. On a long-term basis, my family here at the UU Fresno helps me feel stronger to stand on the side of love when the world around me sometimes fills with hate. It is important that we keep contributing to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno so that our church can continue to be a source of love and support for all those who need it.
When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion beat to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Today is New Member Sunday, and I'm excited that we'll be welcoming 4 new members into our church community. We begin with these words, why you want to join a Unitarian Universalist church, adapted and expanded from words by the Reverend Roy Phillips. You want to join a Unitarian Universalist church because it points to what is noblest and best in human life, because it stands against superstition and fear, because it's open to whatever person of whatever race, creed, color, age, sexual orientation, religious background, gender identity, economic reality, level of education, national origin, or immigration status. Because a Unitarian Universalist church believes we must prioritize and protect those who are the most vulnerable. Because it believes Black lives matter. Because it knows that justice is what love looks like in public. You want to join a Unitarian Universalist church because it has a free pulpit, because you can hear ideas expressed here that would cost any other minister their job. You want to support it because it's a place to come where children can come and not be saddled with guilt or frightened of hell and damnation, where our young people can learn that religion is for joy, for comfort, for gratitude, and for love. You want to join a Unitarian Universalist church because it is a place where walls between people are torn down rather than built up. Because it is a place for the progressive spiritual seekers of our time who believe in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. You want to join a Unitarian Universalist church because it's more concerned with human beings than with dogma. Because it's searching for the holy rather than dwelling upon the depraved. Because it calls no one a sinner, yet knows how deep is the struggle and how great is the hunger for what is good. You want to join this Unitarian Universalist church because Unitarian Universalism is a religion and not a spectator sport. Unitarian Universalism is a living tradition with roots stretching back over 2,000 years while it is still evolving, growing, and changing for the future. You want to join this Unitarian Universalist church because it insults neither your intelligence nor your conscience, and because it calls us to name what is truly worthy of our love. In this spirit, I invite you to go to Patty Bennett's home as our coordinator of congregational life begins our welcome.
Buenos dias. Good morning on this New Member Sunday. As your coordinator of congregational life, it is my great privilege to introduce you to several wonderful people who are choosing today to become members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, California. Jamie Applegate, Lucas Cervantes, Margaret Sanders, Sue Vanata.
As president of the Board of Trustees, it is a joy to welcome each of you into our community of memory and hope. To each new member, I ask, will you walk together with us, sharing the joys and the responsibilities of membership? Will you bring your hopes and enthusiasms, your questions and fears? In community with us, will you help us fulfill our mission to love inclusively, grow spiritually, serve gratefully, and work for justice? If so, please say with me, we will. We will.
members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, will you welcome these dear ones into our congregation? Will you be open to their unique gifts and perspectives and the change they will bring? If so, please speak these words of welcome with me. Welcome into this community of spirit, love, and justice. We join our strengths, talents, and commitment with yours. You are a part of us, and we are a part of you.
Becoming a member of this church is an important step, but it is only a first step. On behalf of the congregation, I charge you, new members, as well as our long-term members, to grow in your Unitarian Universalist faith.
I also charge you, as well as our longer-term members, to find and share your special gifts with us. Ours is a shared ministry. Each of us has a crucial role to play. We need you. We need your energy. We need your ideas. We need the gifts of your time and financial support. Give generously of yourselves, and your rewards will be great.
Each of you brings light, vitality, and renewal. Each of your lights has a common source. Together, we form a beacon of hope to each other and our wounded and beautiful world. May your light shine brightly among us for many years to come. In that spirit, from our own homes, let us offer our warm applause to the newest members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, California. Our next New Member Sunday will be June 6, 2021, but you can always join anytime privately. Come with us on this shared spiritual journey, and let's sing one of our favorite hymns, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. You are like no other being. What you can give, no other can give to the future of our precious children, to the future of the world where we live. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Love, my dear ones, will truly guide us. And in that spirit, I invite us to breathe in together, breathing in peace. Breathing out love. Again, we breathe in peace together. Let's hold a moment, transform it to love, breathe out love into the world. And one more time, breathing in peace. We hold the moment and we breathe out love. As we continue breathing together in this virtual sanctuary made sacred by our intention to be connected together in peace and in love, a question emerges because I'm inviting you now to let your breath carry you back over the last 7 days of your living, the gift that was this life. And the question for reflection is, in these days of change and uncertainty, what is nurturing your spirit or your soul? Our collective breath carries us into our tender time of sharing personal joys, sorrows, concerns, or gratitudes. If there's something that you'd like to share this morning with your church community, just type that into the comment box. We ask if you're typing about someone else to just use an initial and not their last name to protect their own privacy. We acknowledge this week that we lost another titan of the civil rights movement, and we celebrate the important life of Vernon Jordan. This first Sunday in March, we also pause to recognize the 15th anniversary of our extraordinary music director, Lorenzo. For 15 years, Lorenzo has been creating musical magic with finesse and extraordinary skill. If you'd like to celebrate Lorenzo and his 15th anniversary as our music director, just type the letter L in the comment box. And we hold in our hearts these are beloved among us who need our prayers, our love, our kind thoughts to surround them. For all that has been shared, for everything we hold in the sacred silence of our own beating hearts, and for all those who on this Sunday have no one to remember them, no one to say their name with gentleness or love, we remember them. And by doing this, may we and they be blessed. We light a second candle, as is our custom. And today, for the over 2.58 million citizens of the world who have lost their lives to COVID-19. We light a third candle this morning to mark the first anniversary of the death by suicide of high school senior Patrick Lucy. We remember his mom, Marty, his dad, Chris, and his older brother, Timothy. Patrick was kind, caring, creative, intelligent. He had that rare ability to see the good in someone else, even if they couldn't see it for themselves. Patrick is missed by his loving family and his friends.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí y al corazón cántale tu compasión. Sopla al volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraígame, libera
Together now we enter into a shared sacred silence.
I'd like to invite you to join me in the spirit of reflection or prayer. Sacred universe. These are the in-between times. Times of fuzzy uncertainty, dancing in and out of possibility, fear, and hope. Times when some of us are joyfully protected by our shot of science, while others of us wait, not always patiently, for our turn. Times when the rains of winter are lingering, even as the warmth of spring is beginning to blossom around us. The in-between, like a pendulum of emotions rocking to and from, closer to the connection with those we love, yet separated by unknown amounts of time. The in-between is hard. Exhausted, we dwell here, fatigued by the waiting, by the limitations, by the distances between. But there is something special about the space in between. This is a space pungent with possibility. For the future is being shaped by every moment we spend here. And so we wait. Every hopeful email, every voice ringing out for truth, every action for equal access, every word of radical welcome is forming who we could be, who we will decide to be. A caterpillar enters a cocoon and becomes goop. We are immersed in the gooey, but we are hopeful because after the goop, after the struggle to free ourselves from the cocoon of what was, we might just be able to fly. And this time, we are blessed by the presence of each other and the gifts of our community. We are working to make a new kind of future. And that work is goopy and messy and beautiful. We do this with faith, hope, love, but most of all, we do this together. May it be so. Blessed be.
In just a moment, I'll be sharing a sermon entitled Out of the Flames, the true story of a deadly heresy and one of the rarest books in the world. I love that title. But before we do that, we are going to sing together. And it's a brand new song, a brand new hymn. I'm so excited that we're going to learn it and conclude it going forward in our services from time to time. Here is Lorenzo to teach it to us.
We'll be doing the hymn in English and Spanish, and the English words are, "Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide." And in Spanish, first slowly, "Lléname de bendita inquietud y mis sueños de la justicia. Seré un barco para el cambio de la marea." And now up to speed. Lléname de bendita inquietud y mis sueños de la justicia. Seré un barco para el cambio de la marea. You'll have a chance to join in singing the English when we do the full song after Tim's sermon. But right now, let's sing the hymn together. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Lléname de bendita inquietud y mis sueños de la justicia. Seré un barco para el cambio de la marea. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Lléname de bendita inquietud y mis sueños de la justicia. Seré un barco para el cambio de la marea. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Lléname de bendita inquietud y mis sueños de la justicia. Seré un barco para el cambio de la marea.
If you've ever taken my Introduction to Unitarian Universalism course, you know that I am a geek when it comes to Unitarian Universalist history. I love it. It's because it encompasses over 2,000 years and contains some of the greatest theologians, thinkers, philosophers, mystics, and dreamers. And it contains ideas that literally have revolutionized the world. And so today's sermon is actually about history on this New Member Sunday, but it's also one of my favorite sermons that I've ever offered in over 26 years of sermonizing. A couple weeks ago, someone asked if I would return and revisit this. I preached it a few years ago, knowing that there's so many folks who are newer to Unitarian Universalism, some of whom found us since we've gone virtual. And so today's sermon is entitled Out of the Flames, the true story of a deadly heresy and one of the rarest books in the world. Would you be willing to die for a word? Would you be willing to die for a collection of words coalesced into an idea? Would you be willing to die in defense of ideas you published in a book. Poet Mary Oliver writes, "You can die for it. An idea. People have done so brilliantly, letting their small bodies be bound to the stake, creating an unforgettable fury of light." Miguel Servetus was one such person. He was Unitarian Universalism's first great scientist, first great theologian, and first great martyr. Miguel Servetus, known to us by his English name Michael Servetus, was born on September 29th, 1511, in the northeast corner of Spain. Servetus was born into a world on fire with ideas. He was born into an amazing new information age, not unlike the digital information age that has revolutionized our own world today. To understand his story, we have to understand the excitement of the times, the intellectual fervor that was exploding all around young Miguel Servetus. 60 years before his birth, the invention of the printing press meant that for the first time, books could be produced in mass quantities rather than copied laboriously by hand. But those first printed books, important as they were expensive, huge in size, and not at all portable. But then, just 10 years prior to Servetus's birth, a new way to print smaller sized books was invented. Now, for the first time, books could be carried easily under an arm, fit into saddlebags, and be widely circulated and shared. This new transportation of ideas was as revolutionary in that time as the internet has been in ours. Now, ideas from anyone's mind could be shared and discussed widely. Classics could be read and digested. For the first time, the Bible was being translated from Latin into the languages of the people. Ideas, creative thinking, radical reasoning could now throw off the unilluminated covers of the Middle Ages and emerge to blink in the light of intellectual freedom. As historians Lawrence and Nancy Goldstone write, ordinary citizens were now linked across Europe. They read what they wanted, which meant they could think what they wanted. Most of all, they had the power that came from the knowledge that there were others who thought like them. At the same time, this intellectual renaissance, this book-driven resurrection of ideas was extremely threatening to the Roman Catholic Church. If everyone had access to the Bible, if everybody could get their hands on the truth of God, couldn't anyone have access to the power of God? If ideas other than religious ones were circulating widely, couldn't other views of the world come into conflict with the ancient religious ones? If religious truth was open for discussion, who knows how religious truth might be found lacking? If everyone could share criticisms of the church through written arguments, couldn't a 1,500-year monopoly on power and control be lost? If power and control was lost, that meant that great money and great property could be lost. It meant the Catholic Church's position and authority could be lost. Needless to say, these were great times to be intelligent and alive. Now, from an early age, it was clear that little Miguel Servetus was intelligent and alive with ideas, filled with a hunger for knowledge. While the little boys around him were engaged in the things little boys usually do, Miguel was studying. By age 16, although it was forbidden, he found a Jewish man to teach him Hebrew so he could read the Jewish scriptures in their original form. By age 17, he learned Arabic so he could read the Quran, the holy scripture of Islam. Most dangerously, he learned Greek so he could read for himself the original version of the Christian scriptures. Oh, what he found stunned him. Nothing he read supported a key teaching of the church. He found nothing in Scripture that supported the concept of the Holy Trinity, which claimed that Jesus, God the Father, and the Holy Spirit, while separate beings, were really one, and that all three had always been and would always be God, one God, divided into three parts. What Servetus found in the Bible was different. When mistranslations were corrected, when later insertions were removed, it was clear. Jesus was a human prophet adopted by God, who was lifted up to a higher status. He was a man, later made holy by the presence of God within him. Even more compelling, Servetus believed, this presence of God in Jesus is also present in all people and in all things in creation. Everything was part of God rather than God being some distinct remote power force. Miguel Servetus said, if you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. Now, this idea wasn't new. It had been around since the beginning of Jesus' ministry, for this is what Jesus actually taught. But the organized church had moved things off balance since Jesus' death. In the year 325, things had really gotten out of whack. That year, a church council met to decide whether Jesus had been fully human. But this idea was threatening to the powerful priestly class within the church. Historians Lawrence and Nancy Goldstone write, if Jesus was concluded to have been less than divine, he may have been simply a man made divine through faith and acts. And if that were true, might not that same potential be available to all people? And if that were so, how could the church hold itself to be the irreplaceable intermediary between humanity and God, a position from which it derived its enormous political power? Obviously, given these stakes, this teaching would not do. Teaching there was only one God, Unitarian, versus God in three parts, Trinitarian, could not be allowed. And so Jesus, the human, became Lord Jesus Christ, God of God, light of light, true God of true God. If this troubles you, this transition troubles you, type the letter T in the comment box. Wanting to correct this grievous error that diminished our human potential, Miguel Servetus did what any self-respecting young intellectual would do in this new information age. He wrote a book. He called it On the Errors of the Trinity. He used the printing press to make copies. He was still a teenager. He had just sealed his fate. The entire first printing, probably around 1,000 copies, sold out almost immediately. And soon both book and author were being discussed everywhere. But much as Salman Rushdie was to discover 4.5 centuries later, underestimating the zeal of one's religious opponents can be dangerous. Not only was Servetus's book instantly banned, but he himself was sentenced to death by the Inquisition in Spain. Spies were sent out to locate him. Family and friends were interrogated. His mail was intercepted. But Miguel, poof, he disappeared. For the next 20 years, he remained hidden. First, he fled to the teeming metropolis of Paris and changed his name to Michel de Villefort. He enrolled in a theology program at the University of Paris, where his star ascended as a student of note. He also fell into a secret network of young men who were religious reformers at the school. Cautiously, he revealed to them his identity as the author of the hottest book on the continent. Another young man was also enrolled at the university at the time. His name was John Calvin. John Calvin had just written his own book, which bombed miserably. He was bitter and resented the star status of Michel de Villov, alias Miguel Servetus. John Calvin, although wanting to change much about the Catholic Church, fully supported the idea of the Holy Trinity, and he was horrified at Servetus's Unitarian beliefs. Calvin came to hate his rival. But when the church authorities cracked down on the student reformers, the teenagers fled separately for their lives. John Calvin traveled around Europe, eventually wrote a masterpiece that was heralded by religious reformers, but he never lost his distaste for Miguel Servetus. Meanwhile, our hero, Servetus, now known as Michel de Villov, returned to Paris and enrolled as a medical student at the University of Paris. After completing studies, he took up practice in the French countryside. Then he made one of science's greatest discoveries. For the 1,000 years prior to our hero's enrollment in medical school, all medical theory had been taught based on the concepts of a Roman named Galen. He taught that the liver, not the heart, was the body's main organ, and that blood moved from the liver to the outer portions of the body to create flesh. To teach otherwise was declared a heresy by the Catholic Church. Leave it to good old Miguel Servetus. At some point in his studies, he discovered the heart's role in circulating blood through the body, and also the functions and importance of the circulatory and respiratory systems. Without these discoveries, there could have been no real advancements in medical knowledge. Servetus published this revolutionary scientific finding in a later edition of his infamous book. Meanwhile, Servetus's rival, John Calvin, ended up becoming the court-appointed ruler in the city of Geneva, Switzerland. He ruled Geneva with an intolerant iron fist. Calvin forced a set of new laws that gave him sweeping authority. He used fear to stigmatize certain groups of people. He severely curtailed civil liberties. He began to use the Bible as a source of civil law. He championed law and order. But the most significant element of Calvin's new regime was to establish an official network of spies, a religious secret police, to eavesdrop on the conversations going on throughout the city. Needless to say, the people of Geneva were less than thrilled. While John Calvin was redefining the meaning of homeland insecurity, our hero, Miguel Servetus, was becoming dissatisfied with the quiet life of a country doctor. He pretended to be a devout Catholic. He pretended to accept the standard religious beliefs of his friends and neighbors, but he wanted his alternative Unitarian voice to be heard. And so he secretly rewrote and republished his book. Strangely, at this same time, he also began corresponding with John Calvin, dictator of Geneva, arguing finer points of theology. Attacking Calvin's belief that humanity was inherently depraved and most people were predestined to hell, Servetus argued for the inherent worth and dignity of human beings. Although Servetus tried to remain incognito in those letters, Calvin recognized the arguments as those of his old school rival from Paris. Calvin saw an opportunity to finally get back at his rival, and he alerted the French church authorities. Michel de Villov was arrested for being Miguel Servetus, heretic extraordinaire. His arrest guaranteed his long-deferred death. But luck was with him. He told his jailer he needed to go to the bathroom. Let out of his cell to do his business, he jumped from the third-story terrace onto the roof of a shed and disappeared into the night. And then Miguel Servetus did something that no one can explain. Servetus was brilliant, but not always bright. He went to Geneva, John Calvin's Geneva. Sunday morning, he went to John Calvin's church, the very church where Calvin preached. His rival, of course, instantly recognized Servetus and arrested him. Suddenly, Calvin had his old schoolmate right where he wanted him, and Calvin decided to use Servetus to keep himself in power. See, the people of Geneva had grown tired of John Calvin's irresponsible and despotic leadership. The initial euphoria of a strong new leader had given way to widespread disenchantment with his actual policies. Rival factions were getting louder, and several opponents were publicly challenging his authority. In other words, Calvin's numbers in the polls were dropping. Calvin knew he would be removed from office if he didn't do something to assert power. He needed a victim. He needed a cause. And then Miguel Servetus came to town. Calvin took Servetus's belief in the worth and dignity of all people. Calvin took Servetus's belief in the spark of the divine alive in all people. Calvin took Servetus's liberal religious values and launched an all-out attack against them. Picking up a copy of Servetus's book, Calvin cried, "There is not a page of this book that is not befouled with vomit." Calvin painted Servetus as a menace to society and an enemy of religion and all things decent. Standing before the people of Geneva, Calvin proclaimed that Servetus's ideas threatened the very cornerstone of civilized society. And the public bought the carefully orchestrated campaign of lies and manipulation. On October 26th, 1553, Miguel Servetus was condemned to be burned alive together with his books. Servetus was led to the stake. They sat him on a log and chained him to a post. His neck was bound with thick rope. On his head, they put a crown of straw doused in sulfur. Chained to his side was what they thought to be the last available copy of his book, the rest having been hunted down and destroyed. His ideas were to be burnt along with him. But because he dared to speak for progress rather than prejudice, because he dared to speak for people rather than the powerful, because his truth was bigger than any one person, because he dared to use the power of words and describe his truth in a book, Servetus's ideas lived on beyond him. It turns out that 3 copies of Servetus's book had not been burned. Calvin secretly kept one for his personal library, but the other 2 remaining copies were circulated. Servetus's ideas were talked about. His liberal religious perspective touched people's souls. Unitarian communities began to spring up all across Europe, in Italy, Poland, Transylvania, and Great Britain. Unitarian thought traveled across the Atlantic Ocean and it spread into the British colonies. It found its way into the heart of the American Revolution with patriots like Unitarian Paul Revere and Abigail and John Adams. It took root in the idea of religious freedom guaranteed by the United States Constitution. Servetus's ideas influenced generations of great thinkers: Voltaire, John Locke, Isaac Newton, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, Fanny Barrier Williams, Frederick Douglass, Charles Darwin, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Margaret Fuller, Emily Dickinson, Susan B. Anthony, E. Brown, and countless other religious liberals. And now, 468 years later, Servetus's ideas influence the faith that we practice here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, California. For we too proclaim that each one of us contains a spark of divinity, of preciousness, of worth and dignity. We proclaim it is our calling to breathe on that spark, bringing forth a mighty flame. We proclaim it's our calling to carry that flame out into our world as we love inclusively, grow spiritually, serve gratefully, and work for justice. Would we be willing to die for those words? Would we be willing to die for those ideas, as Miguel Servetus did? Poet Stephen Spender writes, I think continually of those who were truly great, who from the womb remembered the soul's history, whose lovely ambition was that their lips touched with fire should tell of the Spirit. Those who in their lives fought for life and left the vivid air signed with their honor. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.
Waking up to find my world between the dying and being reborn. I see what is and I see what could be. Can't close my eyes again and go back to sleep. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. How can I change our course? Just a lonely voice. Wish I could lose myself in all the noise. But if we all would rise, a generation proud with a mighty song, we could turn this world around. So fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. unbroken line. So when our time is through, I want to know, did what we came to do for the future ones? So in our saddest day, may we all be strong and give our lives so light may go on. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide.
Hey, it's Lisa again. Welcome back to my house. This congregation is a theologically diverse religious community. This means membership is open to all who resonate with our principles, mission, and values. We are a welcoming congregation. We're welcoming to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, and we unconditionally welcome any and all of you to our community of mutual caring. Our congregation is entirely self-governed by democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our congregational well-being. Now, something in today's service fed your spirit. I invite you to now express your gratitude and participate in the blessing of giving. There are several ways you can make that happen. We have Cash App, we have PayPal, credit card, text message, or send a check in the mail. Now, a slide's going to appear shortly with all that information on it. But first, in the spirit of grateful generosity, will you join with me now in saying our words of offering? If not us, then who? If not open hearts, then what? If not now, then when? If not here, then where? If not generously, then how? If not us, then who? Thank you for saying yes. Bye.
Howdy friends, I'm Dani and I'm back with a reveal of Reverend Tim's Sunday socks. This week, Reverend Tim's Sunday socks got rather prickly with a sharp showdown between a collection of cacti, the desert rain blooming cactus, and the lone cactus in the noontime sun. Which one did you vote to avoid to be the cactus of the church campus? It's a collection of cacti. All right, friends, a few reminders for you before we get going. Worship is moving to Zoom on March 21st. In the beginning of the pandemic, President of the UUA, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, said it's not about perfection, it's about connection. And being able to move to Zoom will allow us to be even more connected to each other because we'll be able to see each other and actively participate together more in worship. Also, outdoor in-person worship will happen Easter Sunday. So you're invited to join us outside in front of the beautiful alluvial gardens for our annual Easter Sunday service on April 4th. Now, this is our very first hybrid worship. It will be both live on Facebook and YouTube and live in person. We do request that you register ahead of time, and that link is going to pop up in the comments, and it's also available in the order of service, along with all of the links and registrations and upcoming happenings. Last but not least, we'd like to invite you March 12th at 7 p.m. for a moment to look back at a year of pandemic. Reverend Tim, Patty, Lorenzo, and myself invite you to come for conversation and reflection of the past year and pandemic times. Together, we will mark the anniversary of the church transitioning into an online platform as we look back at how we've grieved, changed, grown, and continue to live into our faith together. I hope we'll see you there.
Greetings. I'm Ida Jones, past president of the Board of Trustees. Again, welcome to my home. Expanding our faith community is so exciting. It gives us an opportunity to embrace more and to connect more. Because the embraces are virtual now, it's vital to have a place where we can recenter, recharge, and renew. It's vital to go where everybody cares to know your name. I know that's why I continue to attend. As we prepare to end our service and enter into the afternoon, please join us in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts.
Extinguimos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón.
Please keep your inside light shining, even though you've extinguished your candle or chalice. Thanks for joining us this morning. We hope to see each of you next week.
Well, dear ones, we are at the end of our service. We have closing words. We have our sung benediction. Stick around for an awesome postlude. Also, gentle reminder, if you haven't made your pledge yet to our next budget fiscal year 21-22, I personally would really appreciate your sending that in. And, Patty Bennett, our coordinator of congregational life, wanted me to tell you that the question that we'll be talking about in social hour after the service is share the most impactful book that you have ever read. So I hope you'll join Patty for social hour. But now let's take our hands, place them over our beating hearts. Go now in peace. May you leave this place knowing you are good and knowing you are loved. Take your love, share it with the world. Stay safe until we meet again. And may the longtime sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and that pure light that is within you guide your way on. Blessed be. Amen.
May we have safe passage. May we have safe passage on our way. Safe passage on your way, brother. Safe passage on your way. Sister, safe passage on your way. Children, safe passage on our way. May we have safe passage. Safe Shalom and assalamu alaikum.
Then before my